All right, hello. This video is going to help you review a couple things about arrays that is going to be on the next test. So speaking of the next test, before we get too far into this, hopefully you have this note sheet. If you were able to print it, great. If not, you can just write down your notes on a separate sheet of paper. But we got two methods that we're going to write with this. For this next test, I would say this is what you want to study. So look over your array notes, so those big packets on arrays. There were 2 packets worth of array notes that we did, and that's the first thing. And I would also say the array trace homework that you did. And the array trace homework was that one that you had to list out all the arrays and trace out what the code did. So look over those again, and then also these practice problems that we do right here, and there's a multiple choice warm-up because the test is going to be mostly multiple choice, but there's also a couple methods to write. Okay, so let's get to this. It says the following array is used to store the monthly salaries of 53 employees at Parrington Wegmans. So you can see I've got an array, and this is how you declare it. It's a double array. Bracket bracket means it's an array. The name of it's called pay, and there's 53 spots in it because there's 53 employees. Write a method for the salaries class that returns the total amount paid by Wegmans to its employees per month. So if this lists all of the salaries, I want to go through this array, add up every single salary in it, and return one value. They give you an example of a method call. They're showing you that S1 gives you access to the salaries class. So this method total salaries must be written in the salaries class because of that S1 dot right here. As it is inside a system.out.print, it means it's returning something other than void because it's got to return something that it then prints out. And the thing it returns again is the total amount paid. Okay, so when we make a method header, this is going to have to be a public what? Well, if it's returning what's being paid and we're adding up all these doubles, if you're adding doubles, you're going to get a double. So this has to be public double. And we can call it total salaries. To know what parameter it takes, you're giving it pay. And pay is a double array. So you have to make a parameter that's a double array. So double bracket bracket. And you can call it pay if you want. I like to call it something different just to show you that it's really a copy of this array. I'm going to call it double bracket bracket A. But you can call it anything you want. Now in the test, you're going to need to write pre and post conditions, so don't forget to write those. So the precondition is an array of doubles. And it's a good idea if you can tell what it represents too. It's an array of doubles representing monthly salaries. And remember, the post condition just describes what this does. So the post condition returns the total amount paid. By adding all the salaries in the array. Okay, now what you really want to remember when you're doing an array is that you're going to need a for loop. If you're going through an array, I should absolutely see a for loop. So what this method needs to do is it needs to go through an array and it needs to add up all the values in the array and return that total sum at the end. So essentially I'm using a for loop. What else am I going to need? Right, an accumulator. you're going to have to accumulate up all the salaries. And all accumulator is a variable. So this is going to be double. I'm going to call it total. Oops. And the total has to start at 0, so set it equal to 0. And then if you're going through an array, you use a for loop. If you're using an array, what do you want your for loop to start at? Usually 0 if you want to visit every spot, because these i's represent the indices in the array. So I equals 0. What's I going to be less than? You could say 53, but let's make it more in general and say a dot length. Remember, no double parentheses. If it was a string, it would have double parentheses. And then I plus plus. At each spot, we're going to accumulate, so total plus equals. And we're going to accumulate on the value at that spot. So not just I, a bracket I. Because I would just be 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3. We want the value stored at space 0 plus the value stored at space 1. So it's going to be a bracket I. And at the end, you just have to remember to return that accumulator. So outside the for loop, we should have return total. That's it. Okay, so that's how you add up all the values in an array. Second question. Write a method for the salaries class that returns the largest of all the salaries. So we did a lot of find smallest in the past. This is going to do the same type of thing, but we're looking for the biggest value. So again, S1 is part of the salaries class. Largest salary is the name of this method, and that's written in the salaries class. And it's getting equal to a double value. So you know it's got to return a double value. So it says the largest Wegman salary for the month is whatever is returned by this array. So it's going to be a public what? Right, again, it's going to be a public double. And it's going to be a public double largest salaries. What needs to be inside here? Well, again, I'm sending it pay, which we know is a double array. So double bracket bracket. Again, you can call it anything you want. I'm going to call it A again. Don't forget pre and post conditions on the test. So again, the precondition is the same as last time. It's a double array. Representing salaries. And post condition returns the largest value or largest salary, however you want to say it, in array. Okay, so if you remember how we did this in the notes for find smallest or something like that, we need to have something that we're comparing to. So let's make a variable. It's got to be a double variable because all the values in this array are doubles. Let's just call it double largest. And initially, let's say the largest is the first thing in there. The largest is a bracket 0. I need to go through the array looking to see if there's anything bigger than that. And every time I find something bigger than it, I have a new largest. So I'm going to go through the array. So I need a for loop. Int I equals what? You could actually say I equals 0, but you don't really need to compare the 0 element to the 0 element because it's going to be the same. So I've got the 0 element here. The first one I really need to compare is the first one. So int I equals 1. We still got to get through the whole array, so I is less than a dot length. I plus plus. Now I want to check, is there a value that's bigger? So if a bracket I, if that current value I'm looking at is bigger than what I'm saying is the largest value, then what's got to happen? We have a new largest value. What's largest equal now? A bracket I, right? If it's not bigger, then that means it's a smaller value, and I'm not looking for smaller values. I'm looking for the largest, so I don't need to do anything if it's not bigger than the largest. And this is going to make a new largest value and now keep going through the array every time looking for something bigger than what it's already called the largest. So by the end of this array, we should have the largest value stored in this variable. What's the last step? Well, outside of the for loop, you have to return largest. And that's it. Okay, so that gives you some array writing practice. Study these two methods. That will help for the array test that you're going to do. And again, remember there's also multiple choice. So look at that warm-up with all of the multiple choice questions, and then you should be good. Let me know if you got any questions.